This is a continued discussion from the previous episode of Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
We were having a discussion earlier today, reminiscing. So for the folks out there, global repairs, 777 generators for Jet Midwest, and our clients went to go install those generators, and they had a failure because they didn't use the proper tools to fit the generator. They literally hung it by its shaft during the install process, which caused damage to the shaft. They didn't follow the manual, right? So we ended up sending it back, and you guys were able to replace the shaft, the broken shaft, and it actually happened twice. I think it was two different airlines, but again, from a quality perspective, the person on the other end,
we don't know what's going on there.
Yeah,
and we're not liable for that. But we had to, as one of our biggest customer. But anyway, any customer, we had to try to figure out what's going on, that this happened repeatedly in X amount of time, and that's how the tactic thing. And we had to scroll things and look for what's going on and determine what's going on, because we don't want to serve you one thing that the
right. Well, but it is as well, for those airlines. I think they both, when we talked to them about it, they said, geez Louise, and if they're not using the right procedures to install it, they go back and work with their team, their own root cause problems, right? So quality from their department side is capturing it, quality at Jet Midwest capturing it, and quality at Global is capturing how to solve these things.
Was years ago when there was a Russian company back then, before Ukraine. There was like Novosibirsk, which is right on the Siberia. I think it's a capital of Siberia. They decided to change the oil, and the oil was an oil brand that is not the 2380, the common that we have, but it was made for IDGs. So every time that we put an IDG there, and they said it doesn't, it worked for 2 hours and then, it shut down. So we started receiving like 7 units back and forth. It's good. We tested here with our oil. It's fine. Until one day, somebody said, hey, we changed this oil. We had a meeting that we brought the rep of that oil, which is a French company I want to mention. They brought it. We tested it. We started digging on that. We sent it to a lab. They said, look, the Fahrenheit that you're flying, thickness of that oil is not the same than this one. And it costs time because a lot of argument with the client. But, we were able to, success. So, it was a successful thing that is look, this is what happened. But all those challenges, is there, and you had to live with that. So that's one of the curiosities that was to find.
Yeah. And you know what? How awesome of you guys to be there to find that for them. That would they had another client just say, well, tough Roccos, there's nothing wrong with this unit. So kudos to you guys for being so diligent and taking care of your customer. We talk through, the idea that there used to be the simplicity back in aviation when it was just yellow tags, and we've talked about transition to 8130s and a much more robust tracking system of traceability on the parts. I know about 10 years ago, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but about 10 years ago on the A350 and A380, they started implementing RFID chips directly onto certain rotables and even some hard time components for tracking. And, that was a great leap, right, in the way that our industry is going, which was great. And I haven't really seen that impact the U.S. market at this point, but it was an interesting methodology. I once watched a pitch for an operator where they were going to put it on all of the oxygen generators in the cabin and all of the life vests in the cabin, and that they could take a scanner and just walk the cabin, and the scanner would tell them which units were going to expire before their next maintenance visit. So they knew exactly which one. Just walk it through. They have to open a single panel. So it was an interesting technology, but with all of those technologies, although it may complement certain parts of quality, it also maybe starts taking things out of the hands of an actual inspector and creates maybe some human factor there. So I'm curious what you think of, some of the technology that's coming, even automation. Are you guys going to be able to capitalize on some of those things inside of your MRO? Are we not there yet?
Well, that's a good question. That's a great question, let me tell you. We're working on different things right now, different avenues that we have. Everybody talk about AI and all that, and I think it's good. Half of the people say good, the other one, it's going to be bad or whatever. But if you use it in a good way, is going to be a great tools that you're going to have. For example, on the sales side, I believe the AI, you can have tons of report what unit is coming. This unit, you receive it in 8 years ago, or whatever. If you start getting that reports, what is trending. Because, for a broker, it's just super great that the MRO will tell you, hey, we received 10 battery this week. So it means that it's trending or the price is going up or what's going on. So you can capture some nice data that you can get that. That's one of the sides. The other things, those things will be, we have a system right now. It's not good. I don't want to mention, everybody knows it's the most popular one on the market, but it's a headache. We're doing a transition right now. It's going to be in a couple months. The way that we saw it was so simple. It was so great. Is what the market is right now. We're gonna get rid of all the space that we have with all the rackets, all the I don't know how many disks we had to have. I don't know how many terabytes. So we're gonna go to cloud, which is cloud's being already for like
a long time. Yeah.
And we're gonna go to cloud. So it gives you more space. For example, we're limited like 10 pictures per unit because our hard drive doesn't get that much. So now with cloud, we're free space. We can even take videos like we haven't, and it's going to be a good tool, especially if the unit, let's say if we have a unit that we send it back to a client and the client says it doesn't work. How can I prove you that? You send it back. I'm going to take a video, and that video that with the phone, we got to have a video and we got to put on a cloud. You're going to have it there. When return to you, if you have any problem, you can go and access to that and get the video right away. You don't have to be, hey, the technician has it, what is the phone? Get it. See what it is. It's there. It's on the system, on the ERP system. We got to have it there. It's very helpful. But there's a tons of things that, for example, this new system, you can quote. And let's see that I say a quote, and a week later, you forget, you never approve it. Or you tell me, hey, George, it's more expensive than what I think. The computer going to send you like repeatedly every 7 days, reminders that you got this quote. So at the end of a month that you haven't responded back, say, sorry, it's too expensive, return it back or whatever it is. But it helps you to manage your employees, because now we have a problem with the labor and constraint labor. We had not that many people, everybody wants to work from the house.
Yeah.
That's the problem. 50% of Washington leave, the house and then go to work. So things like that happens. We need, people in person, and at least you have an extra tool to help them to come out with the skeleton personnel that you have in the office, if you can say that.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I like the approach you're taking, because there are sometimes, we take it for granted that people can be wired or rewired into thinking exactly like we do, because our business, even though a quote may be very straightforward every time, they're not perfect enough, right? So there's enough variety between the types of products that we deal with that I could see where it would be very tough for an individual to really understand some of those nuances. So it helps if you're in the background prodding that thing along and driving it. We have the same software system you have, and we too are moving away from it. It's taking me a long time to get there, but we're finally, like you, approaching that.
There's new things that, there's new tools inside, especially reports. That's so important. You got tons of data that sometimes you overlook and say, it makes sense.
Yeah.
What this is saying makes sense, and we never checked that before. But now with this kind of ERP systems, you can drag all that information and make your own graph,
Absolutely.
whatever you wanna find out, what's going on.
Yeah, we were talking that, I was getting pretty passionate because I love talking, because it's where my podcast listeners are out here, right? But we were having a conversation about that inspection, right? There's going to, hey, I could take 30 pictures. You could take a video. We talked about what's next, right? For some of those folks out there who've been to MROs, both in Europe and the US or even the Middle East, people have demos, right? Where they've got this technology where you're putting on the virtual reality headset and you're actually in a room with your hands, and you've got access to the manuals, right? The CMM is right there digitally. Just click in the air, right? You've got a glove on, you're clicking in the air, and now you can open it up and scroll through. And I can imagine a day where we're troubleshooting just like you're talking about, but instead of sending that unit back, we just 3D scan the unit right here on the table. And they put on their glasses, and they're looking at it, and we're turning it right there, and we can pinpoint, hey, is this a crack here? Nope, that's not a crack, or we repaired that already, or, there's just corrosion here. This is within limits. And you could actually do those things and have a virtual reality that might be in real time to actually show the person on the other side, hey, this is why this is so expensive, or this is why I have to replace this. That would be exciting times.
Yes.
I think that would be, to me, that's
We have
fascinating.
some projects on that, not on the part itself, but like, we had to build our own special tools to extract things that is not like a Snap-on or
Right.
Home Depot. You don't go and get through a special tools that you do in a machine shop, and it requires different things. We was trying to do a catalog with all those tools and have it in a 3D scanning. And when we finish that, what we're gonna have is whole portfolio, all our toolings set up in a way that in case that, their user warrant that they broke, you can replace it in a CNC machine or
Right.
any those
So 3D printing, maybe.
3D printing, and you can do it. It depends what material you had to use, but it's the thing that we're trying to do it. We bought this counter or that we haven't the chance to finish that, but it's a project that we want to have.
I'm curious now that we're having this dialogue. My brain just kind of clicked here.
All right.
So part 43 parts, right? So that's a repair component fabricated in the shop for the use in a specific repair.
Mhm.
Right. I'm sure people are using 3D printing for that. Have you had any experience yet with that? I'd be curious, right?
I never seen one in a real shop, honestly.
I've seen some demos. But I don't know that I've actually seen anybody actually put it in the shop and use it.
I see CNC machines and all that replicate on metal, but not on the plastic cell and the easy way that the 3D printers do it. Honestly, it's a thing that we have to think about it.
I think it's coming. You're right. So there are 3D printing machines that print metal.
Yes.
And I've seen those machines. Again, I've not seen them in work under a certified environment. So I'll be curious.
Actually, if the shop is under ERING 968-2 or -3, is this kind of a natural engineer, something like that, National Engineering Association. The FA allow you to build your own tools as long you meet or surpass the OEM requirement, and you had to have that on your repair station mod. And the RSM that you have, you had to detail that if you're gonna build one, you're gonna be to accordance to that ERING 968, and you have to have your procedures to do it, and you can do it there without any problem and build it as long as you test it and it works and do the function as the OEM or surpass that. So I think it works.
It's coming. All right. So I've got the next thing. I need to go do some listening and some reading and ask more questions to other people and get more clarity on. Well, Jorge, this has been fantastic.
Thank you.
I ask all of the folks here I have on the podcast what their favorite aircraft is, and I always get some good feedback. But what would you call your favorite aircraft?
Okay. It all depends. If I'm going to ride now, going out, 787, the one
that's a pretty luxurious ride.
G7, that would be nice. But 747. And you know why? Because the climb rate is faster than the 777 than any other one. I mean, A350 probably is the same, less turbulence, and I like a smooth flight.
Yeah, I think we all like smooth flights. I like that G7. You just threw a curveball in there. I like that. Maybe in retirement, right? We can. You come pick me up. We'll head to Vegas. All right, I'm halfway. Well, Jorge, anything else maybe you want to elaborate on or talk about?
Actually, it's my first podcast, and I was very, very nervous.
And you've done awesome.
You did this like a family conversation in the middle of the kitchen. Honestly, it was very great.
It is. And actually, can you tell the story real quick about how you first met me, when you first met me?
We met in 2009, beating against each other on an auction for American Airlines test stand. Years ago, I was ended up buying one, and he was ended up buying the other one because I got the best one.
Yeah, you did.
It's still running.
You also paid a lot more money for it than I paid for mine.
Probably double.
Yeah, probably more. I'm pretty cheap. In fact, my test stand, that meeting was right over here, right? This is the same room that auction was in. That was in the Wayback Machine.
That was 2009, 10, like 60 years ago.
It's pretty fantastic. And
right.
Yeah. In fact, the shop that we're in now, actually, your shop does almost all the same stuff that was done right here in this room by TWA. Back when they were up full capacity. So
that's a great story.
Yeah, it's a lot of legacy in here. Well, thank you again for joining me on the podcast. And for all you listeners out there, I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Nose to Tail. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Presented by Jet Midwest.